Hello, everyone. This is part two of Every Attempt is Your Teacher. And so we return to cyberspace to continue the vocal journey. I feel that the human being, if you want to choose to be defined by the content of your moment, it becomes a very complex situation where the person can say, who am I? Am I the memory I had of myself, let's say 20 years ago, or am I who I am now, or am I who I am visualizing? And what really brings this sort of classification, this uncertainty, is really time. Albert Einstein has this quote. He says, we created time so everything doesn't happen all at once. And somebody asked Plato what time it is, and he said, he didn't have a sundial. He looked at his watch, and he realized watches don't exist. And he says, time is the moving image of eternity. So I feel as the experience of time changes, the conception of the energy you take for every attempt changes. That means it's like wondering about how you feel about life, if there was a sense of past, present, going to the future, or if regardless of if you called it past, present, future, regardless of whatever, it was one occurrence. That means technically we exist 24/7, but we're not conscious of existence 24/7. You see, so existence is more continuous than experiential phenomena, right? And so we have to kind of ask ourselves, as this temporary intelligence, what is the value of existing in what appears to be this endless system of manifestation? There's so much existence around, but we get to experience a small chunk of it. And I'm wondering, what is the value? And I realize the value is, on some level, you have to advance your own inner realms by constantly attempting new actions or decisions in your outer realms. I realize that there's two types of energy sources. There's an energy source that you just, it's instant, but then there's a source of energy which arises when you do something that is important to you. When something important, I feel that there are petty desires and there are desires that are like the archetype's existential purpose. That means it's like when you're a baker, at that moment you'd be like, all right, it's my destiny to bake bread. You know what I mean? When you're in the archetype, you're destined to the outcome of the archetype. This is why so much of philosophy and how it really, what gave momentum to philosophy throughout history branching out, was human beings actually solidifying in new senses of profession and behavior. You see, it wasn't after the subjective evolution, after we became conscious that we are, in some sense, we are people, then we started seeing different versions of people. And it's kind of hilarious, right? You see different people in front of your eyes, and behind your eyes, you see different versions of yourself, which are your memories and who you are. So whether you look inside or outside, you're seeing multiple positioning of the personality, the multidimensionality of the personality. And I don't know, but it's like after some point, I feel every person gets a sense of what they are, And there's two ways of going. Some people look at this world and they're like, they get the conqueror's mentality, so they get driven to the point of power, and most likely the power of that road is one that's shaky. So you'll be given power, but then you'll lose it because you never knew what it was, It's that that's egoic power. It doesn't know its own power, so it loses it. I find it fascinating because it's like, a child being born and they're like, who made the laws of the universe? You know? And wondering what sort of phenomenology events, like when human beings make laws, and it goes through this kind of judiciary, kind of like it goes through legislation, like it becomes, how would I say it, that it's like various angles, various viewpoints, various filters are there before an activity is decided upon, a sort of law is set, you know? And I think this whole deal about us thinking that there's a God or not is simply, it's going to forever be there. Let me tell you why. Because we're small. Because we're small. That's why we are fascinated by the big. And in religion, man is introduced to, strangely, one of the most biggest ideas, which literally is saying the world was created and by some inconceivable personality that is within and without and everywhere. You know? Like you go, for example, in Vedic thought, they saw the world as like the sky, I don't know, I think the sky was like Krishna's head. You know, the earth was Krishna's feet. Like they saw, it's very kind of obvious to see. It's like the person wondered, who am I? I'm a person. How did I get here? I was created. Then the person looked at the world and it's like, oh, the world. What if this world was also created, and what if it was created by a person? Eventually, like, it's so easy for me to see how human beings would get to that conclusion at some point. Regardless of where they were on the earth, they would after some point begin personifying, because when you look at another human being, technically they're just a bunch of atoms, but how they are a human being to you is based on your personification ability. Sometimes people are not who you see them, you know, people are how you've seen them. We must not fear the mist. Life can appear chaotic, complex, but that's the thing about being in the mist. Your feet are on the ground. In whatever sort of illusion or phenomena, there is something that is being acknowledged as the actual. You know? Like, for example, when somebody tells you something, tells you in a summarized way something, and then you look at them and you're like, no, man, tell me what actually happened. What does that mean? That means let's get to the precise evocation of the animate phenomena in the moment. Galileo has this quote. He says, you cannot teach anyone anything. You can only make them realize it within themselves. And what does that mean? That means we were never each other's teachers. The mind is a teaching extraction mechanism. You are like an engine. Your mind is a biological, bio-linguistic processor. You're processing things through your biological senses, through your sensory perception, and you're also processing the sensory perception through how you have interpreted the senses subjectively in administration to an identity, to a self. This is something fascinating. I was like, if free will doesn't exist, who has it? Who is suffering? If right now I am the laws of the universe are moving everything, then what is my movement? On some level, it can be fair to say that if the laws of nature are here first, man's laws are secondary. So man's laws are a world inside a world. This is why our knowledge will never be as perfect as nature, because knowledge was sparked like fire, as I mention often in these talks. It was literally something where after some point we're like, you telling me I could name this object and I could say this name to another person and they will be able to consider this object? So your attempt is your will. Your will is your choice in overall view. That's your free will, I would say. That means when I feel my free will strengthened, I can choose the outcome. It doesn't mean it will happen, but at least I know I have a right in the moment to choose. To be honest, guys, very simply, my effort in all these talks is to try to see what the blueprint of an advanced civilization would look like. On some level, human beings have to be organized to achieve greatness. On another level, they can never be organized because everyone has their own eyes, and for now, everybody's trying to be a surviving self. We care more about the survival of our temporary selves than the planet we're leaving behind for the future generations. And people may feel nothing is going on. There may be some people who look at the environment and may be like, all right, this Earth's been here longer than us. We shouldn't worry about the Earth. But let me tell you what we should worry about. We should worry about the endless satellites that are in our atmospheres. And let me tell you what's going to happen in the future. It's not something I'm saying. I kind of looked into this. I want you to imagine right now, beyond the clouds, there is an orbital pathway where numerous satellites and various things human beings have pushed into the sky are there. So there is a lot of metal, actual metal, floating in the orbit. Now, there was some very smart guy, I forget his name, but this smart guy came and said, wait a minute, you're telling me we're all trying to say, yeah, innovation, interstellar advancement, and we're constantly putting satellites into the sky and whatnot. But these satellites will at some point collide, and in that vacuum state in the orbit, imagine endless satellites hitting each other, breaking and shattering to endless tiny pieces. Eventually, these tiny pieces are moving in a vacuum, so literally we're going to imprison our Earth in some sort of, what do you call it, prison of broken satellite debris around the Earth. There's so many things that immediately require the human being. Let me tell you what the story of modern civilization is. It is after some point, nature started getting abused, but man said nothing. Man said nothing. And some people would say man did it, but I'll get to that. The story is as if you've come into a room and you're seeing a world that is being beat up. It's being beat up by the ignorance to its better potential. It's the rage of, like in my science fiction novel, I wanted to create a metaphysics for the concept, for the archetype that we have. Like the polymath archetype and the genius archetype. I was like, when people hear the word genius, what does it mean? Einstein pretty much has given a really great picture of it, and he says it's when you connect two worlds that were never connected before. So technically we can say at every moment that two human beings communicate, where their inner realms, language is being the bridge, that moment is genius. It is a moment unfathomable before, of the connection of two separate dimensions. Yeah. When you forget your humanity, egoic constructs come and take hold of you. When you forget your humanity, when you forget you are a natural human being, you become characters in a story. And I would say being a character in a story is a evolutionary. It's literally one step away from being a full robot. We have to keep our balance in this world, and that means in your mind requires to acknowledge and notice nature, And your mind also requires to acknowledge the technological realities that happen or will happen. There comes this question that if language is hollow, what is the point of communication? And so that would mean if language is just symbols, if letters in the alphabet have no significance, then their significance is how they can help us place imagery sequentially in our inner realms before we experience it in our outer realms. It's been fascinating, guys. If I can tell you throughout all these talks I've given throughout the years what the experience from behind my eyes is like, literally the physical body is my kind of foundation. So when I give these talks, the body, the stillness of the body and the stillness of the world are the same. So first you attain some sort of level of content with your physical body's stillness, and then you start noticing the ultimate stillness that is underlying every movement. After you comprehend and you learn that way, not only you will access hyper alertness, but you will also begin learning from unknown movements of your own intelligence. You know, I was looking at what the normal was. Right now I'm going to read for you, let's see what Saint Dictionary says, but I'm going to tell you a view on normality that's going to be shocking. Let's see what the dictionary thinks is normal. Adjective, conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected, of a person, free from physical or mental disorders. Technical, of a line, ray, or other linear feature intersecting a given line or surface at right angles. In medicine, of a salt solution containing the salt concentration as the blood. Here's the best thing, the noun. The usual, average, or typical state or condition. Exactly. It's the average. Do you know what that means? The average is impossible. That means it's just a suggestion. Normality is a suggestion. There's no such thing as normal. Back in the day, it was normal wearing top hats. Now it's not normal wear top hats. There's no such thing as normality in a changing world. The fact that we think we're the same thing every day is fascinating. I think that's the mystery, the divine mystery. Now check this out. There's a word called normalization, the process of bringing or returning something to a normal condition or state. And there's no such thing. Time moves forward. There's no normal. Even if it's kind of like you being at the dinner table and then you leaving the dinner table to go answer the door and then coming back at the dinner table and saying, all right, let's normalize into the same moment. You can't. The moment is different. There's different factors. Things come and go. Life is more like these ocean waves I've put in the wallpaper. Do you see? They don't have any linear meaning to them. They are non-linear self-truths, you know? And it's so multidimensional. That means it's as if like man and God are two sides of the same coin. It's just that the mind is how space feels matter. Space feels matter as its mind. And the body thinks space is its mind. And the mind is attributeless. The mind is a glass orb in the hand of your soul. And this glass orb is being rolled, like the soul is playing bowling with a glass orb. And imagine the bowling, like the bowling booth, imagine there's you put different colored cloths, or you put the imagine you put the different flags of different nations, of all the nations in the world. You created, okay, here, let's say you went to this bowling place and you saw that all the bowling lines, they had each, the whole line wasn't just yellow wood, it was the flags of all countries. And imagine the bowling ball was a glass orb. And you roll, the soul is rolling the mind over matter. I think I'm going to kind of create an imagery right now that I think never has been made like this, but I feel the soul is like this being that is rolling this giant orb over a two-dimensional plane. I mean, the fact that we have dimensions, the fact that the moment we were aware of the third dimension, we still could consider the second dimension. It's like the moment we became aware of 3D phenomena, like this like right now I'm looking at this coffee cup, but the cup, I am seeing a 2D phenomena in the cup, the circle that the cup makes, the top of the cup makes. So I am seeing the 2D in the 3D. Now I'm saying, imagine your mind is a higher dimension than your body, so your mind sees those dimensions in the body. So technically it means the body has nothing to hold on to, the mind doesn't have hands, and the soul is everything it ever wants. I feel the same moment we're living a temporary life, we're simultaneously living an eternal life. That eternal life is non-conceptual, it's non-dual, it's oceanic if you feel you're a drop in this world. And I don't know, after some point you are like, is it all weather? I was really thinking that. There was a time, I wouldn't say I had a feeling of hopelessness, but I had this feeling of intellectual anguish. And this intellectual anguish was this feeling where I was like, there is so much randomity that to be rational in such an irrational and strange world setting is it's impossible to be rational in an irrational world. Do you see? And the world is irrational. Why? Because there's literally black holes in space. There's no reason why space should have a black hole in it. Alright? But there is. You know? That's the kind of world we live in. Hovering on spheres in the middle of nowhere, and even in space we find holes. You know? Oh, nice. Chat section is active. All right. So, guys, give me a second. Let me see. So, guys, I'm just reading the comments in the chat section. Okay. Um, okay. So, interesting comment. So, guys, Aziz and Being Human in the chat section, they say, I'm just going to say BH, okay? I'm going to call you BH from now on, which it's not a good acronym. Let me see. I'll call you BE. Uh, I'll call you Who. HU. Who. Being Human. I'll call you Who in the chat. I mean, that's confusing too. Jesus. I'll call you Ing. Okay? Ing. If I say B, if I say Who, if I say Man, all these. So, guys, Aziz says, okay, whatever. Being Human says, where do you see the cup? Over there? No, you see it in your mind. And Aziz says, he calls it simplifying thought, but it's in response to the other. So, here's the thing. This is very interesting. I think, here's the question. If so, Sally is saying, I mean, I'm just going to say Being Human because people are going to be like, who's Sally? You know? Just a second, guys. Here's the mystical question. If you see, so Being Human is pretty much saying, Mr. Within, you're seeing that cup, but you're seeing that cup within yourself, so how is the cup outside of you? That is true. That is a kind of station we find ourselves in the mystical vision. But I'm telling you this, I opened up to simultaneity. And it was very strange because it was before the conditioning of my environment had formulated an opinion on this. I experienced something, you know? And I would say it's that you first are looking at this. I experienced it in a different way, I could even say. Pretty much I share in this. You guys, people who are like usuals, regulars, I'm going to tell you this. When I dream, my mind projects a body that I experience life through in my dream. So technically, when we are awake, we are smart. The mind is still doing what it was doing with the dream, but it's doing it through the lens of the objective body. So your mind, whether you are asleep or not, is living its life. But the body is conditional. Okay? So that's why I'm saying you come to a point where you gotta, it's no longer chicken or egg, which came first, you know? You leave the egg alone and you leave the chicken alone. You see the story came into simultaneity. That means you are being a non-dual phenomena that is simultaneously perceiving yourself in dualism. And because you're perceiving yourself in dualism, that means you, as a human being, have two. It's like literally like a plus sign. It's an intersection of two dimensions of intelligence. So do you guys see what I'm saying? I'm saying we're conditioned to eat food one at a time. Do you know? to, you know, handle physically things one at a time. But the mind doesn't do things one at a time. The mind does now, all, now, all, now, all. And when you realize that, that's why I'm saying it has an evocational nature. This is why the shaman, I don't know, you know, drank a special tea and danced around the fire. There was a reason to that, because the importance of the inner realms. When you honor your inner realms, you become the most unique human being. Because nobody has seen your inner realms. But if you try to be like society, everybody has seen. Everybody's seen the normal. Don't try to be normal. It's the biggest waste of time, because there's no such thing anyways. It all changes. It's all human vision in the game. It's literally like we are painting the story of the world through language, and everybody has their own experience of the language. And after some point, you're like, okay, how do I process this moment that's happening? You look at what's in the moment, and you see there's a physical component, your physical body, and then you're like, okay, how do I know this physical body is here? And the concept of knowing, the concept of the knower are both not physical phenomena. So I am saying, when you are in your, imagine three states to life: the conscious waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state. Okay, in deep sleep, nothing to worry about. You're not a concept, you're not a self, there's literally nothing. You know, there's nothing to worry about, you know. Even if you were wanted to be worried about something, nothing would be the only thing to worry about. So that's deep sleep. Then we have the dream state, which is only the mind's life. The body is in some inactivity. The heart is moving. The brain is moving. You know, air is moving. It's all the rhythms of the breath shift the experience of the dream. Like, if you notice, in my dreams, I'm breathing. Did you know? I checked this out. I was once conscious in a dream, and I'm like, wait a minute. Am I breathing? So I realized that breathing was how in the dream state I was rooted to reality. So it's like, if you want to move in a dream state, you got to be very conscious of your breath. So literally, as a human being, if you're really interested in wondering about your communication, I would just say, find random moments in the day where sometimes for me, I sometimes, I don't know, I sometimes do like, I don't know, I just walk by nature and I just get a feeling, just something in me is like, just sit a little bit beside this tree. And I sit beside the tree and I look around and I let myself kind of be a fool again and look at nature anew. You know, because there's something to the objective realm and the subjective realm, they're simultaneously being each other. You have two eyes that see the same. You have an objective existence and a subjective experience that are being the dynamism of the same moment. In my inner realms, like, how can I tell you? Sometimes before I fall asleep, when I'm in my bed, I become the room. I literally become the silence of the room. I'm saying that whatever any human being says, including myself and all the human beings that will be born in the future, whatever human beings say, it is oscillating between the known and the unknown. There's unknown variables, and the mystic realized the unknown was there before the known, so when the mystic no longer feared it, they got access to the unknown vision of the world, which was beyond the shadow and beyond the light, so you no longer were a bewildered beast having to constantly go towards next shape, next shape, next shape. You begin to realize that the search of eons is satisfied in an instant. You are a mind, and the mind is unknown, and you're a body, and the body's known to certain limits. You know, we don't even know enough to make our bodies immortal. I feel the mind can become so advanced that I don't know, guys. I feel like literally in a religious context, I found it hilarious, guys. I'm going to actually say that some people are going to be like, spiritual people, they suffer the least. Some people think that they suffer the least because their mind doesn't see an end to something that could be multidimensional. But let me tell you, there's the spiritual person in society suffers. Let me tell you why. And let me tell you what I mean by the spirit. First of the concept of the spirit is pure unknown. That means, like, I am simply just attempting to extract some sort of linearized, shareable meaning from my inner realms. I can tell you that if somebody, literally, if I, I don't know, if I was in my last moment of as a concept in existence, and somebody kind of said, uh, which way to go, like they just wondered, what do we do here in this world? I would say explore it. That's your task. The purpose of life is just to go see what it is. Live for life, and you will live for life. That is the only way. Your attention has to care for the living, has to care for the source of the living. Eventually the civilization gets to a point where you will look at human beings and you will care for how their minds get disturbed or not. Do you see? There are certain things in advanced civilization. Some people would say, how would emotions be acknowledged in advanced civilization? Like, I think first of all, that's a good question to ask. How would emotions appear in advanced civilization? In an advanced civilization that has advanced communicators, it would require human beings not getting emotional, because skill means they can still pilot through the turbulence without the turbulence dictating who they are. I'm just saying you're alive once. Think of it as if nobody knows anything. We're on a sphere in a vacuum, and the great, most honorable thing is to open the eyes of the collective. And the collective is not some utopia, kumbaya by the beach sort of civilization. When I say an advanced civilization here, I've written honor of the skillful civilization. You know what that means? That means if in the future there's imagine a kind of, malicious extraterrestrial civilization attacks, human beings are, imagine a civilized, I kind of painted this picture, but I'm going to say it again. Imagine imagine civilization gets attacked, and the aliens are like, wait, why aren't the human beings reacting? Imagine it's in the future where we've become an advanced civilization. So I'm kind of like, the question was, what would they, let's say we're wondering about the emotions of an advanced civilization. So we're going to put the advanced civilization under a test. And the test is going to be, imagine an extraterrestrial civilization comes to human beings, okay? And the extraterrestrial civilization even declares war, attacks something, but instead of us going on the offense, we just play it defensive, and we just fix what they broke, and we just keep doing what we're doing. And then that alien civilization is like, what is this? These guys are not even acknowledging us. Like, it's like literally an armies at one kingdom's come to another kingdom to take over that kingdom, but that kingdom is not even acknowledging the army at its door. And so the situation was, the extraterrestrial comes down to one human being, and all human beings are super busy. They're just too busy. And then, that's the thing. The alien's like, why aren't you guys acknowledging us? You know, why aren't you guys preparing your defenses, your military? We're going to invade you as an extraterrestrial civilization. And then it's like as if the aliens come down and he's talking to one person, and the guy's like, buddy, we're too busy trying to build something so much more bigger than you and your civilization. Leave us alone. You know? It's like, we don't have time for you. And the alien, like imagine that evil alien civilization would be like, what the fuck? These guys are fearless because they're too busy. Because they're too busy and they're too advanced. So what does that mean? That means emotions are natural. You're not ill, mentally ill, because you experience an emotion. You know? It's about the discrimination of reality and that which deviates from reality. And that which deviates from reality is in a subtle way real behind your eyes. But that which is actual is like poetically real. You know? So I feel we're opening to a situation where we have to not fear simultaneity. We have to not fear the dance of consciousness and matter. We should not fear any idea, for we are the ones that project them. So it's suddenly taking your mind back into control, but you are not controlling it. It's kind of an allegiance with the world, where I'm telling you, whoever you are, I think if you do this, the karmic turbulence tends to go away. Where you sincerely, in a moment when you're alone, stare at the sky and stare at just the world you're in. Stare at, and Westerly, I think stare at the sky is nice. Stare at nature, at the nature of your world, and just in silence, sincerely, as if you're saying it to nature, the whole universe. In some sense, I'm just trying to say, put down the weapons of resistance. Weapons are heavy to hold. This world doesn't move efficiently when the human being feels the outer world doesn't see it. And it's only the contentment with the unknown that heals that, and I think that makes the karmic turbulence usually go away. It's all about attention. We're creatures of attention before we're creatures of thought. It's like, imagine person A is sitting on a park bench. Person B out of nowhere comes and says, person A, you're terrible. And then suddenly person C comes and says, person A, you're incredible. And then person D comes and says, no, you're terrible. And then it's like incredible, terrible, incredible, terrible. And then person A is like, which one am I? And you realize the endless availability of the free will to see a new view. And I guess I would end off the talk there. You know, you gotta attempt your own novelty to see who you are, and without decency, without a sort of decency, you can't maintain skill. You can't experience moments of skill by being cruel or intense and rough, but I'm telling you, you can't maintain the skill. Think of it this way. In order for you to master anything, you have to be able to do that activity in the most complex state of consciousness and in the most simple state of consciousness. Similar to a pilot that needs to master navigating the airplane in different elevations. Now think of your attention being the pilot of your conscious moment, and you're navigating the inner realms and the meaning of your life in accordance to how your attention moves. Your attention and your breathing, and if you can see the relationship of your own attention with with every breath there is a subtle shift. Study your attention. You will play your mind like a master instrument. You will become your mind. You will become the master of your, I don't know, mind's instrumentation. you know. So that's the end of the talk, guys, and honor really, it starts from within. So I would say, um, you have to trust your mind if you want to work with it, just like you have to trust your body to move. So, guys, that's the end of the talk. I'm gonna open it up to Q&A, and yeah, people can even ask about, like, usually when, okay, here, I wrote it down. I never did it. I wanted to I wanted to dedicate an episode to just how to ask questions, right? And the questions can be personal, impersonal. They can be of the self or of the world, you know. So, guys, the Q&A is open, you know. Let's see. Okay. So, guys, an interesting question. The cool thing about questions, guys, they're a challenge for me, you know. So the question is, Pursuit of Purpose asks, how does one pursue a woman who likes you but is too worried about an age gap between each other? Any advice? First advice, I'll tell you, go look up who Esther Perel is. Esther Perel. I would say listen to Esther Perel first. Here. This caps lock key is on. But I would say if you want to know about that, I would say go listen to Esther Perel. I think I wrote the name right. She's this incredible speaker on the topic of relationships and whatnot. But I'll tell you my view. And my view is a bit kind of from a mystical angle. That for me, it's like I see pure stillness, I see pure silence, then everything that is animate in my whole moment, you know, it's like the life of it. Do you know? So I would say, you know, that stop seeing people as if you can know them from before. It's literally unknown minds, and it takes like a lifetime, you know, maybe even more, a lifetime to kind of get to know the other person. So, for example, here, I'll say it, I was in this kind of savage conditioning, and in media, I don't know, they're displaying men like, I don't know, like, you know, hungry animals, you know. And I'm not saying that men aren't, like I've definitely in my youth have had that hungry animal urge. But I'm telling you, at first you want an object. But then when you realize the next great pleasures of the mind, the luxury of the mind, is that you don't want an objective relationship with another human being. You want to see what world are they walking in and what world am I walking in. And there has to come an honor. If you don't have honor as a person, you'll instantly try to make yourself like someone else just to fit their reality, you know? So I'm telling you, see it this way, that you're bringing a world to the table, the other person is bringing a world to the table, and you have to choose to step out of your world, and they have to choose to step out of their world, and you co-create new moments in space and time with one another that will link your inner selves get to see each other in that moment, you know? So that's what I'm saying. It's that most people deviate from who they are, so they constantly feel they have to be something. Because in reality, especially, there was this saying, I remember I heard it, there was this story, really, I saw it in a meme on Facebook, but it's worth sharing. What was the meme? The meme was showing this like 65-year-old couple. They had been with each other for 60 years or something. No, I mean not 60 years. It's ridiculous. But like I don't know, maybe like 50 years, 40 years. Let's say I don't know. Let's say back in the day, I don't know. Like let's say they were with each other for a very long time. You know, and so it was like as if the granddaughter had gone to the grandmother and the grandfather and was like, "How do you guys keep it together?" And you know what they said? They said, we came from a time when something broke, we fixed it. And I realized this is the infantilization of the responsibility of our minds in society. That it is easier for us to get rid of something than try to fix it, rather than try to salvage. Do you know one thing that I regret is not just not having done something in the past, not like, how Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So similarly, it's kind of like, how would I say it? It's like I have regrets of things that I didn't do, and I have regrets of things I didn't continue. If I had only continued, I would have succeeded. It's just I gave up to myself before the world had really shown me my true face, you know? So that's my advice. That's what I would say, pursuit of purpose. I would say that, first check out Esther Perel. And the thing is, you got to stop seeing people as objects and subjects, and you got to see them as their free will. And when you can become happy that someone else can be just free, when you really meet someone in the pure lands, that means your moment and their moment are in the same okay vibe. you know. All right, guys. Let's see. What's the next question? JH says, "Is this our new home?" I don't think that's technically an actual question, more like a comment. But I'll say, your home is where your attention leads you next. The next place you pilot your attention. It's like we got to study the self while we're being it. Uh, Here's the thing. I'm telling you, be a designer before you bring stories in. Look at the design of the moment. Look at the life sensitivity of the person. Yeah, I think it's not. I think you know what I think really true love is. I don't know if it has this sort of definition in modern culture, but I kind of see it is when you can see somebody as truly as you see yourself. I think it's literally a sense of you see the inner, you see the mind of the person. So it's like you let's say it like this: most people don't care about people's minds right now. Like there's 8 billion human beings. You think all these 8 billion human beings are thinking about like humanity 24/7? No, we're like in groups, like family groups and then bigger groups and whatnot. So people are just aware of their environment. But I'm telling you, when you care for the mind of another person, you are caring for the unknown potential of all that they can become. It's that we have become such an ego-centered, egocentric society, like um, community or environment. It's like there. I think there's an opportunity cost to every decision, and that's why I think we need consciousness. Consciousness is the finger that is presses the button. The free will is the decision maker. But the options or what the decision will be or what the outcome will be are not in free will. Okay, so but pursuit of purpose. I'll tell you this. I mean, don't forget your decency. So always attempt to look at how intense your expression may be to the other. You know, that means it's kind of like just like young children, really young children shouldn't see zombie movies, for example. It's like there should be a sort of recognition of just like how a person is like, when you're hungry, you can eat a lot. When you're not hungry, you can't eat that much. No, no, no. I know it's Sagittarius JH in the chat section. It's just that I don't know how to spell it. Yeah. I don't know if it was two T's or whatever. Uh, so I'm saying just you got to be discreet. Like if literally like my young cousin in a family gathering, in a Persian family gathering, if my young cousin asks me a question about like life, I'm not gonna give like a Mr. Within talk this intense to him. I'm gonna ask my cousin, how do you see things, and then give him an answer based on that, my younger cousin's reality. So I would say the best thing is for the person to check the parameters of every relationship by asking the other person. That means constantly asking, well, how do you see the moment? How do you see things? I learned this in sales, and not that it wasn't really, it was the seasonal job I had, where I would go door to door, and for Red Cross I would get donations. It was just this seasonal work I had, but every day I was going like knocking on 200 doors, and the person would be like, the first thing they told us is like, when you knock on the door and when they open the door, say you're not gas. Say you're not the gas people, yeah. So, anyways, there were a lot of incredible salesmen. Strangely, I felt like I was in the movie The Boiler Room, and I realized it was all about asking the person how they see the moment, you know, how they see reality. It's all about sight. What I learned from my work there, and I didn't learn it well when I was there. I only learned it after. Was that we have different eyes, and different eyes sees different value to things. You know, it was really, guys. I'll tell you one of the most hilarious. uh, Man, no, it's too extreme. Whatever, guys. Let's go to the next question. Let's see where we're going with this. Okay, pursuit of purposes. How do you cope with existential anxiety? Very easy. Wonder where it's coming from. If you're on a boat and you're navigating a ship and there's a hole in the ship, instantly wonder why the hole is there and quickly fix it. That means exist. Let me tell you what anxiety is. It is feeling powerless against the conditions of existence, but the only way resolution is to it is to realize you have to kind of implement your own effort. Some people might will be wondering like, so many people are waiting for their prayers to be answered, not realizing they have to get up the chair. You know, you're sitting on a chair, imagine like hundreds of people are like, yo, get up the chair, man, get off this chair, you know, and you're like, no, no, you know, and still you're like, please, people, help me get off this chair, I can't get off the chair, but then you realize you got it in an instant, just you can get off the chair, you can literally get up from one moment and move to a different moment, a different acknowledgement of reality, but this doesn't mean losing sight of your decency resonance, losing sight of how you're a natural being before you are reacting like savagely to a non-linear to like I'm just saying tame the animal within and advance the humanity without, the humanity in front of your eyes. Really, what else can we do? We just hover as phenomena, or we do something. We direct this energy somewhere. There was Napoleon Bonaparte. I don't know if I said the last name right, but anyways, he says Bonaparte. He says, what does he say? He says, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And in Zen, they say you gotta climb the mountain starting at the top. That means the fact that you, in this moment, feel you have existential anxiety, you are literally choosing inefficiency, and in all the moments in your life where you can think you have existential anxiety, you could see you could also not. It's multiple decisions can be made, multiple viewpoints. There was a time I remember, I've I don't know. There was this situation where this was in my youth, where I over dramatized my pain to get attention, but this was maybe when I was like 7, okay? And nobody cared. And I was just left there in that moment, in that awkwardness, you know? Oh man. Yeah. So anyways, guys, all right, guys. So I guess I'm gonna end the talk here. The plane has reached the destination. Guys, just a recommendation. I mean, astrology has value, you know, but I'm telling you, it's like everybody should just journal their inner realms, and hopefully in the future there'd be some advanced organization that can document everything that's happening in all our imaginations and process the patterns and whatnot. You know, I feel the seeds of the school of Athens 2.0, the school of advanced communication, has been planted. It just needs to happen. You know. So no, guys, I'm pretty much unless anybody has a question. If nobody has a question, I'm gonna end the talk here. You know. So you know, guys, I'm gonna give you a preview of some projects I'm working on, and anybody who wants to support my efforts, they can. Um, Pretty much, I'm gonna start a new channel where these live streams might become here and there, but I'm going to pretty much start a YouTube channel where I'm drawing. I'm drawing geometrical shapes in it. You know. Yeah, guys, the talks are available. I've made playlists, so I'm looking at the chat section. So being human and pursuit of purpose or JH, you guys, there's a lot of playlists. I mean, I recommend people don't. I mean, listen to one or two at max, maybe like two of these talks a day. On you know, I mean, if I'm giving three live streams, I mean, then that makes a difference. Just trust your own eyes, and then you, your intelligence is already intelligent. You know, much blessings and namaste.